The snowstorm was wild. It howled like a beast across the frozen alien mountains. The wind tore through trees and lifted icy dust into the sky. In the middle of that storm, something small lay buried in the white snow. A tiny body, still, cold, silent. No one should have survived out here. High above the planet, a satellite moved through the clouds. It belonged to Earth's special division, the ISI. It scanned the frozen ground and suddenly stopped. A weak heat signal blinked on the screen. "Commander Zamir," the voice came through the base radio. "We've found something strange." Zamir, the lead ISI field agent, leaned forward. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Location? North Quadrant, Sector 4G. Temperature, 42 degrees. But there's movement." Without hesitation, Zamir called his team. "Prepare the dropship, we're going down." The dropship cut through the blizzard like a bullet. Zamir sat quietly, his gloved hands holding a thermal capsule. Around him were 3 soldiers, Ali, Karim, and Faria. The mood was tense. Alien planets were dangerous, traps were common. "Could be a fallen drone," Ali said. "Or bait," Faria added. Zamir didn't reply. His eyes were locked on the screen, showing a single blinking dot. The ship landed hard. Wind hit their suits as they stepped out. Snow crunched beneath their boots. Zamir led the way, his tracker beeping faster. Then he stopped. He pointed. There, just under a thin sheet of frost, was a small shape. It looked like a child. Blue skin. Thin arms. Tiny fingers frozen in place. Zamir dropped to his knees. "She's alive," he said, touching her neck. Faint pulse. He gently lifted the tiny girl into the thermal capsule. Her skin was ice cold. She wore rags that barely covered. Her body and around her wrist was a band with strange alien symbols, and one small patch stitched in a human language. ISI Unit Number 47. Urdu. Daughter. Zamir's breath caught for a second. This child. Where did she get this? Back at the base, alarms were raised. A Class A bioform had been brought in without clearance. Doctors rushed forward, but when they tried to touch the girl, she panicked. Her weak arms thrashed. She screamed in a language no one could understand. Zamir stepped forward. He took off his gloves and gently touched her forehead. His voice was low, kind. "It's okay. You're safe now. No one will hurt you." The girl stopped shaking. She looked up at him with big glowing eyes full of fear, but also hope. For hours she was kept under watch. She didn't eat. She didn't speak. She simply clutched the piece of cloth with the human word on it. No one knew who she was. Not even the base AI could identify her species. She was alone. Completely alone. Zamir couldn't sleep that night. He sat beside the glass chamber where she rested. Every now and then, she opened her eyes and looked at him. She didn't trust the others, but she watched him like a baby animal watches its protector. "What are you?" he whispered. "And why were you left in the ice?" The only answer was silence. Next morning, Zamir made a decision. He walked into the commander's office. "I want to adopt temporary care of the alien girl," he said firmly. The room went quiet. "You know that's against protocol," the commander said. "She could be a bioweapon, a threat, or worse, property of an alien faction." "She's just a child," Zamir replied. "She needs warmth, not weapons, trust, not fear." The commander sighed. "Fine, 72 hours. But if anything happens, anything, you'll answer for it." Zamir nodded. That night, Zamir sat with the girl again. This time he brought her a small blanket and a warm drink. She didn't take it at first, but when he handed her a tiny packet of sugar, she sniffed it, then tasted it. She smiled. A weak little smile. Zamir smiled back. "I'll call you Snowdrop." Her glowing eyes blinked slowly. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and held his finger. Outside, the snowstorm continued to roar. But inside, A tiny spark of life had been saved. A frozen alien child had been found, and she had held the hand of a man she did not know, but somehow already trusted. The real question remained: who left her there? And why? Zamir didn't know yet. But one thing was certain: he would not let her go. Not now. Not ever. The next morning, the base was quiet. Zamir stood by the glass room, watching the alien child. She was sleeping, curled up in a ball under the soft blanket he gave her. Her skin was still pale blue, and her tiny chest rose and fell slowly with each breath. Outside the chamber, nurses whispered, "Is she dangerous? She doesn't even speak. She could explode, like some alien seeds do." Zamir turned to them sharply. "She's a child, not a bomb." The nurses fell silent. 2 hours later, her eyes opened. Large silver blue eyes, bright like moonlight. She blinked slowly, confused. Her hands clutched the blanket tightly. Her breathing quickened when she saw people in the room. Zamir stepped in alone. He moved slowly, calmly. He crouched beside the bed. "Hey, you remember me?" he asked gently. Her eyes stayed on him. She didn't move, didn't blink. He held out his hand. "It's okay. You're safe now. No snow. No pain." Her lips trembled. She looked down at the cloth in her hand, the same one with the Urdu letters. She whispered something in her alien language. Then again. It sounded broken, weak. Zamir listened carefully. Then, suddenly, one word escaped her lips in clear Urdu. "Baba." Zamir's heart stopped. She called out again. "Baba?" She was not speaking to him. Not exactly. It was a memory, a cry, a last hope left frozen in the storm. Zamir sat there in silence. His eyes softened. "You miss your father," he said softly. The little girl didn't reply, but tears began to roll down her cheeks. Silent, cold, like melting ice. Later, Zamir entered the control room. His face was serious now. "I want full access to galactic DNA logs and migration records," he told the tech team. "Searching for family?" one soldier asked. "Yes, there may be human links." He uploaded the cloth's code and the Urdu writing. "Scan every system. This child didn't survive that snowstorm by accident. Someone left her there, someone who knew humans." The system began scanning. But deep in his gut, Zamir already knew. This girl was not a random orphan. She was part of something bigger. Over the next 2 days, the girl stayed close to Zamir. She refused food from anyone else, refused to sleep unless he was nearby. When he wasn't around, she hid under the bed. But when Zamir walked in, she peeked out like a kitten and crawled to him. He fed her warm soup himself. He showed her how to wear socks. She watched his every move, learning, copying. She didn't speak much, but her eyes asked questions. Her fingers touched his beard, his uniform, his face, and she would whisper softly, "Baba," over and over. One night, Zamir sat with her and showed her a drawing pad. He gave her a digital pen. "Can you draw?" he asked, smiling. She looked confused at first. Then she made a small mark, then another. Slowly, she drew a circle, then 2 small shapes beside it. He leaned in. It looked like a moon, 2 people, and fire. Zamir pointed to the tall figure she drew. "Who is this?" She pressed her hand to her chest and whispered, "Meh," then pointed to the other figure. "Baba." The fire between them made Zamir's stomach twist. Something terrible had happened to her father. That night, Zamir couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the drawing in his mind. The child, her father, a fire. Had they been attacked? Was she running from something? Or was she the only survivor? The next morning, a strange thing happened. The girl was playing quietly when an alien medic entered the room, a gentle female with smooth green skin and kind eyes. But the moment the girl saw her, she froze. then screamed. She screamed so loud the window trembled. Zamir ran in. What happened? She saw me and panicked, the medic said, stepping back. The girl jumped into Zamir's arms, shaking like a leaf. Her tiny hands gripped his jacket tightly. Her heart raced. It's okay. You're fine. No one will hurt you. Zamir whispered again and again, but she didn't stop crying until he held her close for a long, long time. Something was very wrong. Zamir called a private meeting with Commander Malik. There's trauma, severe trauma. She's scared of anyone with green skin, and she says the word Baba like it's her last memory. Commander Malik frowned. So what do you think? Zamir paused, then said firmly, she escaped from something cruel. I need to find out what. She's not just a victim, she's a witness. That night, Zamir tucked her in gently. She looked up at him with tired eyes and reached out. For the first time, she said clearly, Stay. Baba. Zamir sat beside her. I'm not your real father, but I will protect you. That's a promise. The girl slowly smiled and fell asleep holding his hand. And outside, the cold wind howled again. But inside, there was warmth now. They didn't call her by name at first. To the ISI base, she was just a case number, Bioform 97A. But to Agent Zamir, she was Snowdrop. The name came from how he found her. Alone, half frozen in a field of snow, small and silent like a fallen winter flower. And now every time she looked at him with her soft silver eyes, the name felt more right. But names did not solve mysteries. Zamir sat in the intelligence room reading reports. No species match? He asked, frustrated. Nothing in the galactic DNA registry, replied the tech officer. She's unknown. And the Urdu writing on her cloth? It's human, sir, from an old unit. ISI medical ship 047. Lost in deep space 5 years ago. Zamir's eyes narrowed. A lost Earth ship, and now a child. Found here? Snowdrop had become quiet again. She stayed near Zamir's bunk, often crawling beneath it to sleep. She refused to talk to others. When soldiers walked by, she would hide behind furniture. But if Zamir offered food or held out his hand, she would peek out slowly and come to him. One night, he gave her a toy, a small glowing ball. She blinked at it, then hugged it like treasure. Zamir watched her, heart heavy. You shouldn't be afraid of light. The ISI commander wasn't happy. You're turning this into a personal mission, he told Zamir. This isn't personal, Zamir replied. It's about truth. You're naming her, dressing her, letting her sleep in your quarters. She's a child. She could be dangerous. Zamir didn't answer. He simply stood up and said, I need a dropship. They flew back to where she was found. The blizzard had passed, but the land was still frozen and lifeless. Zamir and his small squad scanned the area. Kareem found a trail, not made by feet, but wheels. The marks led to a deep cliff. They climbed, down carefully. There, half buried under rock and snow, was a hidden hatch. Zamir brushed off the frost and read the alien letters. Project Nest, property of Dominion Biocorp. His eyes widened. This isn't just a lab, it's a test site. Inside, the cold metal hallway groaned under their boots. The lights flickered. Walls were cracked. Broken machines and smashed screens lay everywhere. But then, they reached a sealed door with red warnings blinking. Zamir forced it open. What they saw inside made everyone stop. Rows of tiny beds. Some still had old restraints. Toys scattered across the floor. Medical tools on silver trays, blood on the walls. There were drawings too, childish, innocent. But one stood out, a blue-skinned girl and a human man. Below it, scratched in broken symbols, was a word. Baba. Zamir clenched his fists. These were children. In the last room, they found a terminal still working. He uploaded data to his pad. The screen showed video logs. An alien voice spoke. Test 14, Splice of alien embryo with human DNA sample from ISI Unit 47. Child survived ice exposure. Mental stability, unknown. Will move to long-term memory wipe. Zamir stared at the log. She wasn't lost. She was made. He returned to the base with the files. The entire command center was silent when they saw the evidence. Snowdrop sat on a chair, holding her glowing toy, not knowing that the truth of her pain had finally come out. Zamir knelt in front of her. You were part of something bad. But it's over now. You're not a number anymore. He placed a small badge on her chest. It said, Snowdrop, protected civilian, ISI custody. Her lips moved slowly. Snow. Drop. Zamir smiled. That's you. She giggled for the first time. A sound so soft, so pure. It melted the entire room. But far away, on another world, someone had received a signal. The project was supposed to be dead. The lab was lost. And yet, a child had survived. A message was sent out. Code 97A located. Prepare retrieval. No witnesses. Back at the base, Zamir watched Snowdrop sleep. He knew peace would not last. This child was not just innocent. She was proof that someone had broken laws, created life from pain, mixed human and alien genes, and someone wanted her erased. He placed his hand gently over hers. You are safe now. I'll keep you safe. Outside, a storm began to form again, but this time not of snow, of war. It was still night when Zamir woke up sweating, not from fear, but from certainty. The truth they found in the frozen lab had changed everything. Snowdrop wasn't just a lost child. She was born or built in that hidden place, part alien, part human, and someone wanted that truth buried forever. Zamir got dressed quickly. He checked the security feeds. Snowdrop was still sleeping peacefully, hugging her soft, glowing toy. But deep down, he knew. Time was running out. Next morning, a message arrived on a secured ISI channel. Incoming visitors from Dominion Biocorp, Galactic License verified. They request transfer of Bioform 97A. Zamir read the message twice. Visitors? He asked the comms officer. Why now? They say she belongs to them. They have government clearance. Zamir's voice turned sharp. She's not an object. They don't see her that way, sir, the officer replied quietly. They see her as stolen property. Zamir met with Commander Malik behind closed doors. I want full lockdown, Zamir said. No transfer, no access. She's under Earth's protection. Commander Malik rubbed his forehead. We're not the only ones in this galaxy, Zamir. This corporation has lawyers, fleets, and influence. I have truth, Zamir said coldly, and I have her trust. The commander sighed. If you're right, then it's time we find the full truth. Zamir nodded. I'm going back, deeper into the base. I need to find what they were hiding. A stealth craft took him and 2 agents back into the mountains. The storm had passed, but danger had not. They entered the lab again, this time with scanners. Below the children's room, they discovered an underground tunnel, sealed by old ice. Zamir ordered charges. The ice cracked and the tunnel opened. Inside, the air was stale, full of chemicals. Lights flickered. Then they found it. The core room. Glass tubes lined the walls. Inside were broken bodies, failed experiments. Children, with twisted limbs. Silent faces frozen in fear. Some looked alien. Some looked almost human. Zamir's heart dropped. This wasn't a research center. It was a factory. Each chamber had notes. Subject 41, neural collapse. Subject 59, heart failure. Subject 72, terminated due to empathy response. Zamir clenched his fists. They were testing if alien children could feel love? His agent nodded, voice shaking. They wanted to erase it. Make them obey. Make them forget their families. Zamir scanned a code on one last chamber. Subject 97A. Snowdrop. Under her file it said, displayed extreme loyalty response to male human model. Bonding. Unbreakable. He stepped back in shock. She was designed to attach to one protector, one Baba. That's why she won't let go of me. Just then, their comms crackled. Sir, this is base. The Dominion team has arrived and they're demanding the child. Zamir's face turned hard. We're coming back. Don't let them near her. The stealth ship turned around fast. Back at the base, Snowdrop sat in the medbay. She wore soft blue clothes and held a drawing pad. She had drawn Zamir again, this time smiling, holding her hand under a shining sun. When she heard footsteps, she looked up. 4 tall aliens entered, cold faces, gray uniforms. Their eyes scanned her like she was a machine. One leaned down. You're coming home now, 97A. Snowdrop trembled. She backed away, dropping her pad. Her voice was soft, but firm. No, Baba. One officer moved forward, but before he could touch her, a voice roared through the hallway. Step away from her now. Zamir stormed in, blaster at his side, fury in his eyes. She's not your product, she's a child, a living being. And under ISI protection. The lead alien spoke calmly. She is our creation, our data. You have no legal right to keep her. Zamir threw down a data chip. That's your lab, your crimes, your failed experiments, and proof she was not made for you, but to destroy who she could have been. The alien's smile faded. Zamir stepped closer. She remembers love. She chose trust. That's what makes her alive. Later, inside the council room, Commander Malik reviewed the evidence. The alien team was silent as Zamir presented everything. Photos of the lab, the dead children, Snowdrop's emotional growth. Then he placed her drawing pad on the table. This was her memory, he said. A son, a father, a future. That's what she deserves. There was silence. Finally, the council judge said, until this case is resolved by higher court, Snowdrop remains under ISI guardianship. Zamir nodded once, but inside he made a silent vow. Even if the courts changed their mind, he would never hand her over. That night, Snowdrop sat beside Zamir on the base rooftop, watching the stars. She leaned against him and whispered, "Why, bad people make me." Zamir looked up at the sky. "Maybe, so one good person could find you." She smiled, then softly asked, "You stay?" Zamir looked at her, eyes warm. "Always." The cold wind blew, but she didn't feel it anymore. She was no longer a broken piece of a machine. She was a child, and she had someone who would fight for her, no matter what. The stars above the ISI mountain base were calm, but deep inside the command center the tension was heavy. Zamir stood in front of the holoscreen reviewing every file again. Snowdrop slept peacefully in the next room. The soft toy still glowed in her tiny arms. She didn't know yet. She didn't know they were coming back. The Dominion Biocorp wasn't finished. A message had leaked. Target 97A confirmed. Human resistance expected. Use force if needed. Zamir clenched his fists. They won't take her. Not while I'm breathing. Commander Malik entered. We've been warned, he said. A stealth team has landed. In the southern hills. No diplomatic badge. No clearance. Zamir nodded. Mercenaries. They'll come for her. Let them try. Zamir walked into Snowdrop's room and sat beside her. She blinked her sleepy silver eyes and smiled. You stay, Baba? He smiled. Of course. He didn't tell her the truth. That outside the base, hunters were coming. That soon this place would turn into a battlefield. He simply tucked her in and whispered, "Don't be afraid. I'll always protect you." She held his hand and didn't let go. At 300 hours, the power cut off. Red lights blinked across the base. Perimeter breached. A voice shouted. Zamir was already in armor, his blaster charged. He ran to Snowdrop's room, but she was already up, clutching her toy. She looked at him with wide eyes. Bad people? Zamir knelt, Yes, but they won't win. He scooped her into his arms and ran through the emergency tunnel, one only he and Malik knew about. The soldiers would hold the front. Zamir had only one mission: get Snowdrop out alive. Outside, lasers lit up the sky. Explosions rocked the ground. Snowdrop clung to Zamir's chest, shivering, not from cold, but from memory. The noise, the shouting, it was all coming back. Fire, screams, needles, her real father, burning. Baba, she whispered. I scared. Zamir stopped behind a boulder, breathing hard. He looked down into her trembling eyes. You're not alone now. She pressed her head to his chest, and her hands started to glow. In the base, Faria, the squad sniper, watched from the tower. She saw something move through the smoke. A black armored unit, fast, silent, not human. They brought gene soldiers, she whispered. Artificial killers. The squad was outnumbered, but Faria fired anyway. 1 down, 2 down. Still more came. In the hills, Zamir reached the hidden extraction point. He activated the beacon. A rescue ship would arrive in 5 minutes. But footsteps echoed behind him. A figure appeared. Black armor, glowing red eyes. Give us the asset, it said. Now. Zamir stepped forward. She is not an asset. She is my daughter. The soldier raised its weapon. Snowdrop screamed, and a pulse of light burst from her tiny hands. The wind exploded. The armored soldier flew backward, crashing into the rocks. Zamir stood stunned. Snowdrop was glowing, her skin like crystal, her eyes like suns. She looked up at him, scared. I didn't mean to. Zamir held her close. It's okay. You protected me. More soldiers arrived. Too many. Zamir took cover, firing back. His shots were sharp, clean, deadly, but his strength was failing. He was one man. They were 10. Then, above them, a roar. The ISI dropship came, weapons hot. It rained fire across the ridge, sending enemies running. The door opened, and Kareem waved from inside. Let's go. Zamir jumped in with Snowdrop still in his arms. The ship rose. Below them, the night burned. But Snowdrop was safe. For now. Back at the temporary base, Snowdrop was wrapped in a soft blanket. Her eyes were red from crying. Zamir sat beside her, tired, bruised, but alive. You got hurt, she whispered, touching a cut on his cheek. It's nothing, he said. You saved me. She shook her head. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You didn't, he said gently. You're special, and they're scared of that. She looked away. I'm scared too. Zamir held her hand. Then let's be brave together. That night, Snowdrop finally slept without fear, and Zamir stood outside, watching the stars again. He had faced death, fire, and darkness, but none of it mattered, because he had one mission now: protect the child. At all costs, no matter the enemy, no matter the price, he would be her sword, he would be her shield, he would be her father. The fire was gone. The danger had passed. For now, the ISI had moved Zamir and Snowdrop to a hidden safe house deep inside the mountains. It wasn't a big place, just a warm room, soft lights, and peace. Peace they hadn't felt in days. Zamir sat on a mat near the fire pit, patching up his jacket. His shoulder was sore, and his back ached. But he didn't care. Every bruise was worth it. Because just a few feet away, Snowdrop was sleeping, or pretending to. She peeked at him from under the blanket. Zamir smiled. You're not fooling anyone, you know. She giggled and hid again. Later that night, she sat beside him quietly. She didn't speak much since the battle. She seemed lost in thought. Her small hands played with the glowing toy. Her eyes stayed down. Zamir offered her warm soup. She took it but didn't eat. He asked gently, You okay? She nodded. But then slowly she whispered, Why I do that light thing? You protected me, he said. You saved us both. Am I a monster? Zamir froze. His heart ached hearing those words from such a tiny voice. No, he said softly. You're not a monster. You're a miracle. Snowdrop looked at the flames. I was made in a lab. They told me I don't have a family. Zamir didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, Family isn't always blood. Family is someone who stays. She looked at him. But if I'm not real, can I still be loved? Zamir placed his hand on her small shoulder. You are real. You feel. You dream. You care. That's what makes you alive. She stared at him, her eyes wet. Then she whispered a word that hit Zamir deep in the chest. Abu. He froze. She had said it before, in fear, in memory, but now she said it with trust. Zamir's throat tightened. Say that again. She leaned against him and softly said, You are my Abu now. Zamir didn't know how to reply. So, he didn't speak. He just pulled her close, wrapped his arm around her, and let her rest her head against his chest. The warmth of her tiny heartbeat was the only sound he needed. Over the next few days, she began to change. She ate better, laughed more. She tried writing her name in Urdu, with big, clumsy letters. Snowdrop. She followed Zamir around like a shadow. Even the guards outside the cabin smiled when she called out, Bye, soldiers, in broken Urdu. She was becoming more than a scared alien girl. She was becoming a child, Zamir's child. But peace does not last long in stories like these. One evening, Commander Malik arrived with a medic and a sealed case. The lab scan's finally finished, he said. We know more now. Zamir sat Snowdrop on his lap and nodded for the commander to continue. Her DNA is part human, from a volunteer on the ISI ship that disappeared. We believe he donated samples for science. He never knew what they were used for. Zamir listened carefully. She was made to obey, to imprint on the first person who showed her safety and kindness. He looked at Zamir. She chose you. Completely. Zamir looked down at her. She looked up at him and smiled. Malik opened the case. Inside was a small silver device. A bond crystal, he explained. Galactic law allows guardianship through life bond. It's old, mostly used for diplomatic children. But in her case, it's legal. Zamir raised an eyebrow. You want me to adopt her? Malik nodded. If you do this, she will be yours in the eyes of all systems. She can't be taken again. Zamir looked at the crystal, then looked at Snowdrop. He didn't need time to decide. He picked up the crystal and gently pressed it to her wrist. It glowed. She blinked at it, then looked up. What's that? Zamir smiled. It means I'm really your Abu now. The next morning, Snowdrop woke up early. She wore the little scarf Zamir had given her. She drew pictures of their cabin, the guards, her glowing toy, and a big man with a beard holding her hand. She ran to Zamir and gave it to him. I made you a family picture. Zamir took it like it was the most valuable treasure in the universe. You made me a family, he whispered, but far away. The enemy was not done. A new message spread across dark networks. Life bond detected. Snowdrop under ISI human guardian. Extraction now requires termination. They were coming again. But this time, Zamir wouldn't just defend her, he would fight like a father. Snowdrop sat by the window, drawing suns and stars with colorful chalk on the stone wall. She hummed a soft melody, something Zamir had taught her. It was an old Urdu lullaby. Her favorite part was the line, "The moon watches over you while you dream." She believed that now, because she wasn't alone anymore. She had an Abu. But outside, storm clouds were forming again, not in the sky, but in space. Zamir stood on the ridge above the cabin with binoculars in hand. The stars were too still. The silence was too deep. Then, a flash. 3 ships blinked into view above the mountain range. Sleek, Black. Silent. Not government ships. Killers. Samir's jaw tightened. They're here. Inside, alarms began to beep. Commander Malik's voice echoed through the cabin speakers. Zamir. 3 unknown crafts just entered restricted airspace, all weapons active. They're not here to talk. Zamir rushed inside. Snowdrop looked up at him, confused. What's happening? He crouched, took her hand. Remember what I told you? She nodded slowly. No matter what happens, I stay with you. Zamir nodded. Exactly. Always. He picked her up, grabbed his blaster, and opened the hidden exit tunnel behind the wall. Outside, explosions rocked the valley. The enemy had landed. Black armored soldiers moved like shadows, scanning the base, looking for one thing. Locate bioform 97A. Life bond confirmed. Target must be erased. Zamir and Snowdrop reached the emergency control station deep inside the mountains. Malik and a squad of ISI soldiers were already preparing defenses. Malik handed Zamir a small case. Evac ship is 10 minutes out, but they'll find her before that. Zamir opened the case. Inside was something old, very old. A prototype, personal shield. Only one, meant to protect one life. He looked at Snowdrop. Without hesitation, he attached it to her small chest. The device clicked and powered up. Abu, she whispered, confused. You're going to be safe, he said. But what about you? Zamir didn't answer. He kissed her forehead and turned to Malik. Get her to the evac point. I'll hold them off. Malik's eyes widened. You'll be outnumbered. I'm her father. This is my duty. Snowdrop screamed. No. Zamir turned to her one last time. He smiled, though his eyes were heavy. You gave me something I never had, Snowdrop. What? A reason to fight for more than orders. A reason to live. She reached for him, but Malik pulled her away gently. He'll find you later, he promised, remember? Snowdrop sobbed. Zamir watched them disappear into the corridor. Then, he turned and walked toward the storm. The black armored assassins entered the command center. Target not detected, one said. Then they saw him. Zamir stood in their path. Alone. I'm the only one here, he said. They raised their weapons. He raised his blaster. The battle was quick, sharp, brutal. Zamir moved like lightning. Each shot was perfect, each move clean, but they were too many, and he was only one man. Still, he stood his ground, even when wounded, even when bleeding, because he wasn't fighting for orders. He was fighting for a child, his child, at the evac. Cliff. Malik placed Snowdrop into the ship. She struggled. We can't leave him. He told us to protect you, Malik said, his voice shaking. If we stay, we fail him. As the ship rose, Snowdrop looked down and saw the mountain burning. She reached out, eyes full of tears. Abu. Hours later, at a secure orbital station, the Galactic Court reviewed the footage. Zamir's last stand, his final moments. They declared him a hero of peace, not just for Earth, but for any world that believed in innocence. Snowdrop was granted full protected status under Earth's law. No one could claim her again. 1 year later, Snowdrop stood in a garden on Earth. She was older now, taller, stronger. Her new school friends played nearby. She looked at the sky, still holding that same glowing toy, the one Zamir had given her. A teacher walked up to her. Snowdrop, it's story day. What will you share? She smiled softly. My story is about a brave man. He was not my real father, but he became one. The teacher nodded. What was his name? Snowdrop looked at the sky again. My Abu. In a small room at the ISI museum under a glass case sat Zamir's badge and a child's drawing. 2 figures, a man with a beard holding the hand of a blue-skinned girl. Below it, in childish writing, my Baba, my hero, my forever.